Today, we're going to talk about how you need real estate as part of your business growth.
You need real estate in your life.
Hi, welcome to Blunt Force Business. I'm Brian Fauci.
And I'm Patrick Marino.
And today, we got a good one.
We got a good one.
Unlike the other days.
Delete all the other previous ones. This is our good one.
We're coming back to real estate today.
Real estate is going to be a part of your business growth.
Yep, and we've done podcasts on real estate before, but apparently they're useless because we have someone
we don't really know what we're talking about.
So don't.
And I don't own anything. I'm one of those people.
So we got Jarrod Lewis from Christopher's Real Estate.
Just read it off the paper. However,
we're not editing that out, so don't worry about it.
That's all right. Nobody cares anyway.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for coming. It's our first guest.
Thanks for having me.
Guest number one.
That's a big deal, you know.
Well,
that really is a big deal. On your LinkedIn page, somewhere under, whatever is on your LinkedIn page.
I'm not even sure I have a LinkedIn page.
Well,
I mean, most.
You should establish it, and then this should be the top thing. Like,
post it right to the top.
under being a husband, a business owner, father. Read it on the top of that.
Was he ever in
on the top
Blunt
of that,
Force
the first thing?
Business?
Yes, you put
life achievements.
Right.
Blunt Force topics,
awards,
birth,
honors,
Blunt Force Business Cinematic Universe.
Yes, absolutely, cinematic
All
universe.
right, makes sense.
Yep. Oh, we love real estate and we talk about it all the time.
Well, I mean, this is like one of those where I know people like it when I'm quiet. This is gonna be one of those where I'm a listener. I'm gonna be listening to learn because I don't own anything.
We talk about marketing,
right?
Is when you're, when I get real quiet.
I'm listening to learn today.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure you'll have.
Well, you're a big believer in real estate.
Absolutely.
As part of your business plan,
yeah.
And we're going to talk about it. Let's get into it.
Okay, fantastic. Should we jump into our Blunt Force facts?
I think we should.
Today? Jarrod, you provide us with some great Blunt Force facts for our day today. So Blunt Force fact number one, when looking at real estate as part of your business is, from The Lion King, it's good to be king. Well, I just can't wait to be king.
I was thinking more Tom Petty.
Go ahead.
It's good to be king is the direct quote. There's no...
Oh, he didn't sing a song about?
Yeah, there was no actual song.
No, there was a song.
Was it?
How's it go?
Not exactly what
Good
that go.
to be king.
Oh, yeah.
At least
all right.
for a while.
He's dead.
I know. It's sad.
That was horrible.
It was.
It was horrible. It was untimely
Too soon.
of him. Yeah. Yeah. So good to be king. What are we talking about? What is, how does that relate to our Blunt Force fact? Well, there's two things you can be as a business owner, and one is the leasee, beholden to the man, and the other is the landlord, the man who others are beholden to.
Well, it fits in with our whole model of like, why don't you just work for a company?
Was that an open question?
Well, no, it's like, why don't you just work for a
Felt like it
company?
was a
Why do you
powerful
own?
statement with no follow up?
Why do you own your own company?
Control.
Exactly. So like, but at the same time, as a business owner, we're like renting and leasing, and but in this case, we're saying apply that same logic. Why you own your company to also why not own the building that you work in, or own buildings, or own real estate for other purposes, right? Why don't we let our expert talk about?
Yeah, and
he's the one who brought this.
And
up.
I'll just add, I want to gonna fall on my sword a little bit as we start, because as we're filming in this building that we did used to own, we no longer do own, and I currently am in a lease agreement with. It was just too good of a deal. They're gonna watch this and they're gonna be like, hey, by the way, guess what? Next month, yeah,
right. But you own stuff.
I know,
and your business owns stuff, right? It's part of your strategy for growth as a person, as you own real estate.
Absolutely. But I think,
we've talked about all the good reasons for that.
Yeah. But in this Blunt Force fact, one of the things that we're looking for people to kind of embrace is finding an entry point in, if you're a startup and whatever phase you're in, finding a way to go to be the building owner. If you need, and sometimes you don't even need a building, right? You could actually, a lot of times you could do it out of your house, and I still encourage people, find a fucking building. Like, and grab a piece of that building for yourself and have tenants and be there and have it.
We're getting into all our facts. Why don't we let our expert tell us a little bit about why is Blunt Force fact number one? Why is business ownership? Why is owning real estate so important? Why not just lease it?
All right, so I think blunt force fact number one is that you're already decided to pull the trigger on being, I'm gonna run my own business. I'm gonna do my own thing. Maybe you had started somewhere else, broke off from the corporate world or whatnot. So you're investing in yourself in the fact that, okay, I'm gonna run this business. I know I can do it right. It's gonna be great. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to limit yourself. So by purchasing your own piece of real estate, being your own landlord, you have total control of your own growth. So, you could say like, okay, nobody wants to think that they're going to be small forever. So you could be like, all right, I'm looking for X amount of square foot because this is what I want to do, so forth. You're your own master of, trial and error of what you're going to do. You don't have to worry about taking on somebody else's problems. So like I used to work in corporate real estate. I'm not going to name drop the company that I worked at. But
it was a big one.
But it was a big one.
Big.
It was a big one. It was super important. They were super happy to have me all the time. But I'd sat down and looked at the numbers. I had grown a team over there, and we were paying an astronomical amount of money. So I had said, it doesn't really make sense if I'm going to be like stuck here renting offices, paying rents and all that. Everybody else is making money. Why wouldn't I just do it myself? So I found a building that made sense, and now me growing my business while owning that building, I only have to worry about what I'm doing. I don't have to be at the mercy of rent increases, what's going on. You have your own problems. Everybody has their own problems in business. I don't want to be subject to my landlord's problems as well. Like anything could happen in their life. Things change all the time. I don't want to be at the mercy of somebody else. I'm ready to go all in on my business. So, you just want to make sure that if you got a great product, what you're running is good, you trust in yourself, then you got to pull the trigger and you got to own your own piece of real estate where you're operating your business out of, because it's just going to open up a wealth of opportunity.
A lot of times when we're working with like a new client, I always, I find they're always trying to fucking save every dollar, right? Like startup wise. Oh, yes. So when they put their business plan together, it's pinched down to like the bare minimum, and so when I bring up real estate, which I always do, like, oh, but that's going to be so expensive. But then when you reel it back for them on, if done right, it actually is it's a net increase every month. And we're going to go into some of the other things, but the fear I deal with all the time, and I'm sure you see this in your industry, and is like, anytime you're asking someone to spend more on even on a piece of real estate, their immediate reaction is to kind of pull back most of the time.
Always, yeah. Nobody wants to spend a dollar. Everybody wants to make the money. They want like the glorification of being a business owner or a real estate owner, but they don't want to. They're money motivated. They're people that want the money right now. You're more of a long-term investment when you say to yourself, okay, I'm gonna sign this 2-year lease on this building and grow my business here. Okay, what if your business explodes in 2 years? And now you're kind of, you've established yourself in that specific area. Your sign's out on the main road. People are seeing it. It's great. Your landlord sees this and now he doubles your rent. What are you going to do? Now again, you're stuck. Yeah. You're stuck, and it's your own fault because you were trying to save a couple of nickels in the beginning because you didn't want to spend any money. You were thinking short term.
Yeah. I think it was my my uncle who, after he died in a terrible robbery, but I had just become Spider-Man at the time. And I think he told me something like, with great power comes great responsibility. And one of the things I think of when I think about the real estate, and this is like, and again, like this is devil's advocate to a certain extent, but it also is something that concerns me as like a potential investor in real estate for myself and my own business, is, issues like, if there's issues with the building, then I have to fix them, not freaking the landlord. If I have tenants, then I have to deal with them if they don't pay the rent, and that might hurt my business, right? If I'm depending on that income, and am I wrong to be afraid of those things that come with being the king, right? With being the king, it means you've got the fiefdom, right? You've got, since I became Spider-Man, I've got all this freaking responsibility now. And I got to protect the freaking city, and like I got to save the buses.
Big deal.
When the train freaking is about to ride off the freaking tracks, I got to freaking grab the train off the track. So it's like,
can't be worried about
that's
real
a
estate.
lot to weigh on the head. So it's like, as like, am I wrong to be concerned about those things?
So I got a great answer for that. All right. And it just comes down to you got to be realistic with yourself. Okay. I go through this all the time when people are going to buy. You have to mathematically be able to afford this. You can't live in fantasy land. You can't say like, oh, well, the bank approved me to buy this place because my debt to income ratio is X amount and I make this much. Yeah, that's great. They don't factor in stuff like you just mentioned. Okay, the HVAC system shitting the bed. Like that's not going to happen on a beautiful spring afternoon. It's 70 degrees. No, it's going to be dead middle of winter at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's probably going to happen in one of the units you're renting out. So immediately, yeah, you're going to be responsible. You have to make sure that you are financially stable enough to take on the amount of responsibility you're going to take on. And one of the things you said is something that I can't stress enough is what you said. Now you have to worry about the tenants paying rent. You never purchase a piece of real estate with the rental coming in is a necessity for you to afford that building. Because then you're just setting yourself up to failure, because then you're giving the tenants all the control. And I mean, you get good tenants and bad tenants, but what you don't want to be is you don't want to be, once again, we're back to at the mercy of somebody else. The whole reason you bought in the first place was because I didn't want to be at the mercy of the landlord. So now if you buy a building that you can't really afford, unless the tenants are all paying their rent, now you're at the mercy of the tenants. So it's always good. And I sit with people when they're ready to, buy a piece of commercial real estate and move their business. Those are exactly the things that we talk about. Okay, you got 2 rental units here. You have to make sure you do the proper screening and so forth. And here we're doing inspection, and this is how old the heating system is. You should budget for this. You should budget for the roof. So yes, you are going to be responsible for those. But as you're upgrading those aspects, you're doing it to your own property that you're keeping long term, and in some cases you're increasing the value. Like when you're doing it, especially when it comes to most commercial leases, you are responsible for the mechanicals, because your heating and air conditioning system now becomes like a business tool. So for me, first and foremost, it's got to make sense financially. The math has to work. Anything in real estate can be broken down into math, and as long as you are honest with yourself, it's not like buying a car. Everybody buys a car they can't afford when you're going to go finance a car. Like you can't do that with a piece of real estate. You have to make sure that worst case scenario, it doesn't have to be comfortable, because it's not going to be comfortable, but it's going to be doable. It's got to be doable. Can I afford this building if the worst was to happen, and so forth. And, you're going to carry a heavier insurance policies for major, issues, but you're also buying that real estate, separating yourself into 2 entities. Now your business and your LLC, your holding company. So you're almost, you're establishing now 2 separate entities, and repairs and stuff you're done on the building could be used as, leverage tax-wise.
Yeah, but see, why I think this is a great fit as an entrepreneur is because you're doing the same stuff that were doing when you decided to go into business. And the thing so I get people all the time that come into me for a consult, and they'll say, I want to start investing in real estate. I'm like, okay, great. And we kind of go through it, and they're not looking at it as a business plan. So I'll say, let's put together a business plan for it. They're like, well, I just want to buy it. I'm like, well, so that's the problem right off the gate is people will invest, and you see this, people invest in real estate not looking at it the same way you would project a business entity. Where I think entrepreneurs can do well in this space is because they grasp the concept of projecting a business entity. If you take that same concept and project a real estate purchase in the same way, you factor in all of those inevitables, and you build out a business plan for this. It's equally as effective as a tool. It's just you have to do that. So while your advice is really take the skill set that you have as an entrepreneur in building out a business plan and incorporate a real estate purchase into the business plan.
Well, the problem is most entrepreneurs don't have the skill of building a business. But most entrepreneurs aren't good business owners. Most entrepreneurs are good at an idea, right?
Right.
And that's what defines the entrepreneur versus the manager, right? The manager runs the business.
I mean, if it wasn't a teachable process, we wouldn't we wouldn't have viewership, right? Or we wouldn't have clients.
We don't really have viewership,
but we have
so
But you and I wouldn't have clients if that wasn't a teachable concept.
So let's. I feel like we're kind of going here. Let's move into
blunt force fact number two. All right, fine. So blunt force fact number 1. It's good to be king.
Good to be king.
Blunt force fact number 2 is the only thing better than a good plan is a backup plan. And that's when you jump in with the A-Team music because you don't remember the A-Team. There you go. There you go. It took you a while. It's because you're getting old. Real estate as a backup plan. Jarrod, talk us through that. What's your thoughts on that? How that plays out and how that can work as a business owner?
Like you just said, most entrepreneurs won't execute. They have a great idea, but they're not going to do the execution, which brings up a high, failure rate. Everybody knows this statistics. If your business, most businesses fail in the first 5 years. Is that an accurate statistic? Mm-hmm. So let's say you had a great idea, you had the money, you found a great piece of real estate, and your idea and your business and everything just went completely to shit. Okay, well, at least now you own the real estate. You didn't sign a 5 or a 6 year lease at a commercial spot that you would now be financially liable for. So if the business was to fail, then now you could actually just take the piece of real estate and turn that into the business itself. You could rent out that building to somebody else that's looking to do it. You could sell it if you had held it for a while and did some improvements. You could sell it for a profit, move those funds. So it kind of gives you like a safety net, of like, okay, so worst case scenario if it doesn't work. I mean, we'll use the best example on the planet. Anybody who knows business knows that McDonald's doesn't make $1 selling hamburgers. They make all their money in real estate because they'll buy and build the building, but they'll let you run it as a franchise. If you run that franchise into the ground, they still own the land and they still own the building. So you kind of so it's not like this isn't like some mind-blowing fact that I'm going to dazzle the crowd with today. This is just facts. This is just major players have already done this and proven that it's an effective system. So if my business fails, but I own the real estate, I still own the real estate. So now I can move on to like the next project that I'm not going to execute, but I could still be collecting the rents from the building that I bought to try to get my first one going.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's like an insurance policy.
It's an absolute insurance policy.
It is an insurance policy that there's something there. The worst thing that, you can see is a company that folds and was in a space and they lease the space and then when it's all left, they have nothing. They're not because when a company gets close to that point of folding, usually their inventory is dwindled. The accounts are, you didn't get there.
Yeah, right.
Right. You're not, we're going to close, but there's, $1 million sitting in the bank. Right. It's very rarely is it like that. So to be left with something that has, even though the business might not have value, something that clearly has, and that's why I love real estate so much, because at the end of the day, you can touch it, see it, feel it today. If you can't, then it doesn't matter anyway. So, you know what I mean? You can do something with it. You can improve it. You can modify it. You can turn it into whatever, but it's tangible and it doesn't go away. I fell in love with real estate when I read the Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when I was in my early 20s. I'm late 20s now, so it's been a little bit, but
I wasn't sure that book was written 45 years ago.
Yeah.
It's tough to be Gen Z.
It's tough to be Gen Z.
Yeah. The struggle is real.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough time to grow up. But and ever since then, I've a lot of the things in that book have just really proven true to me over time. I've just seen it. I've seen how it has gotten me through tough times. It is, you slowly chip away at it. It becomes this asset build. And, you look back, you're like, all right, great. I've had this success with these other things. And then there's this real estate portfolio there. And you're like, holy shit, that's
the most consistent thing you've done over your whole life. Is just build a real estate portfolio.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And the flexibility with it has been amazing. Like what you can borrow off it, the lending power of it, right. Just, it becomes its own bank at times where you don't have to go to a bank. All right, I just borrow off my assets, or I guess you would have to go to a bank to do that. That was a poor example, but it's easy borrowing power is what it is.
Let's get into this. So let's say you have a business owner who's just short of the age of 50 and doesn't own anything.
Yeah.
What's the advice that you'd give?
Hypothetical.
What's that?
Hypothetically?
Hypothetically. Imagine Spider-Man was sitting next to you.
Imagine that.
He's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, solving crimes and protecting the city.
But he's renting a shitty apartment in the Upper West Side.
He's not doing that, but he doesn't own anything. What would the first step be in starting a business growth strategy that involved real estate?
First thing you would have to do is sit your parents down and say, Mom and Dad, I'm ready to move out of the house. Pack up the 6 or 7 cardboard boxes you got in the basement and say, you know what? Today's the day. Today's the day it happens. No, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to probably, I would say, sit with your accountant first. Most people would be like, oh, go to a lender. I'm not sure I would go to a lender right away these days because the real estate market's very slow. There's a lot of people out there with the let's throw it against the wall and see if it sticks because I'm dying for a mortgage application.
Amen.
I think you'd want to go to your accountant first, take a good look at, at your books, at whatever, and then talk to them about what do you think comfortably worked into like what my monthly spending is or to what my average take home yearly income. Then once you have that number and you have all your ducks in a row, then you would go to the banks. Then you would go to a lending institution and be like, hey, whether you're thinking about going commercial property first, or if you're a business owner, I always tell people a great idea is, mixed use commercial properties, especially if it's mixed use with residential rentals, because then you could utilize one of the residential rentals for yourself and then operate your business out of the business portion while still, like I had mentioned before, utilizing the double entity of, your business is, one LLC and then the holding company that you're keeping.
Are we living in a good time for buying commercial real estate in terms of because one of the big problems with buying residential real estate is supply.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the supply like right now for commercial real estate? I don't want to date the video, but
commercial real estate's not suffering as bad as residential is right now. I think like a lot of the problem I think that I foresee and I think has already happened with a lot of commercial spots is you're seeing that these mom and pop places just aren't going to make it. Like you're not going to compete with Amazon. Like Cindy's Candle Shop is not going to make it nowadays. So I think that these smaller commercial buildings, a lot of them I see are going for sale. Like your strip malls are your strip malls. Your mixed use properties are always in high demand depending on, because that you're advertising to that type of person. But I still think that, people that are afraid to buy real estate right now, I believe, and you probably see this too, is that the first thing people bring up is like they're worried about, the interest rates. Like, the interest rates are really high, so it's a bad time to buy. Okay, let's talk about that for 1 second. So you think that
you're probably going to take more than a second.
I'll tell you. Well, I just wanted to try to prep the audience for the one
departure.
You're already over a second.
We're taking a departure.
Let's get to the point.
It would have been done if you stopped your app in 2 seconds. So just answer me this question. You got to ask this question to yourself. I'll sit with clients all the time. Well, I don't want to buy right now because I want to wait for the rates to drop. Okay, but when the rates drop, it's going to raise the prices of the houses. Now, that's not me rubbing a crystal ball. That's me just seeing what happened in 2020 through mid-2022. So that's fact. It's going to create more people going after properties. It's going to create, more sales, more demand. So, the prices are going to start going higher. I'm like, so you're going to be buying at a higher price with the lower rates. So it might end up washing out. And people were like, yeah, but at least, the rates will be cheaper. And I don't want to buy if the rates are going to go down. If the rates are going to go down. Well, why wouldn't you buy now hoping that the rates are going to go down? Because if you buy now and then the rates go down, you're going to refinance and you could possibly pull some cash out of your property tax-free as a debt, or you could refinance into a lower payment and then keep more of your, of your monthly income. So it wouldn't make any sense to like, yeah, but what happens if the rates don't go down? Well, then you bought at the lower rate anyway, because if you bought now and the rates went up, then you still had the property at the lower rate. It all comes back to you got to be real with yourself. Can I afford the property? People ask all the time, is it a good time to buy commercial real estate? I'm like, are you ready to buy a piece of property? Like you're not going to timing the market just doesn't make sense. If you're like a high level investor and you're buying, commercial apartment buildings or big strip malls or whatever, maybe you want to really pay attention to the market. If you're a small business owner and you're ready to take your business out of your garage or out of your rented office and you're ready to pull the trigger, when the time is right. The time is now. Like, okay, I'm growing out of this place. The only way I'm going to expand, I want to bring more people in. I want to, leverage some more opportunities.
Yeah, and I love what you said about mixed use as being a first like entry point as real estate. I always tend to leverage people to or push people to go multifamily. Like your first home should be something that I don't care at any age. If you go that route, then now you've established like, all right, I'm going to build equity in this. But then when you're ready to move, you keep it. You know, and that's the best way to start and build. It's a little harder to go single family and now I'm going to grow. So I'm going to buy another single. It's harder. It's harder financing wise. It's harder to do it. But when I got into real estate, I got into it in the single family model of buying a single family, that needed a ton of work, renovating, selling, and moving to another single family. So which is a model and it works. But if I could do it over again, I would have changed that with the first thing would have been a multifamily and then maybe go on the route I had gone. But I do think there's so much to be said for that. But I even like the what you said even more because mixed use there's so much flexibility. What I love about real estate is ability for it to be flexible and what you can do with it. And mixed use is great because, all right, well, the commercial market's kind of dying right now. Let's make those residential. Or the residential market is dying right now. Maybe we'll make this other unit commercial unit. And change the scope of the property a little bit. Right. But have that flexibility that when commercial and residential flux like they do, you're kind of sitting at this nice space of being able to leverage either one. Yeah. I think that's a great entry point.
Maybe since we just talked about entry, maybe we should talk about the other end.
Right, because when you go in, you got to pull out. And our blunt force fact number 3 is always be ready to pull out. That was a great segue, by the way, Patrick. I appreciate
Into what?
That. Into the blunt force fact.
I don't get the connection.
Pulling out?
I don't get the connection.
Always be ready to pull out. Nick Cannon. So, blood force fact number 3. I love when we do business development from the beginning. I always say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the end. And people look at me kind of sideways like, well, can we just get it going? I'm like, well, the plan should always be aimed at the end. And I love seeing real estate as part of the end game. I'm sure you see a lot of clients that leverage their real estate as business owners for their end game. Like, what do you see go on in that space right now?
Probably what we see the most is the person that ran their business, out of their commercial building or their mixed use property. Now they're ready to retire and they'll sit down, with now this would be where it would be dumped in your lap. It would come to somebody like you and say, well, what is my business worth? Because I'm thinking about retiring. I think I'm going to sell this business. And then, you get a valuation on the business and then they would come to someone like me and say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about selling the building. Now you could be a shitbag and be like, yeah, let's sell. Let's sell this thing right away. God, because I want that commission. Or you could be like, listen, here's what I think you should do. I think you should work on selling the business and then keep the property that you're running it out of. So this way that you made your money off the business acquisition, but you're continuing to make your monthly rent off of a person that's taken over a business that you already built. So you already have a successful business that you're selling to somebody else for a profit, but you are retaining the real estate that they're operating that business out of that you have your entire life. And some people have a niche business which I don't know if I pronounced that correct. I don't think anybody ever does, by the way. Niche.
Like an itch.
Yeah, I think if you don't...
Right before you pull out?
The niche.
You got to...
Just pull it out.
Well done.
You got to... lost my train of thought now.
That's all right. Well done. That's all right.
Just remember the pull out. You can't lose your train of thought when you need to pull out. You got to keep... Focus.
Pulling out on you.
Focus.
Otherwise...
It's a great segue into the fatherhood video.
Yeah, right. So anyway, on being a father...
How did you get there?
The power of child support.
The power... As a third income stream. All right.
Yeah, I don't own anything except the relationship with an ex.
Great. Absolutely. Great.
I own that shit.
So, yeah, we to reel us back in a little bit. I see that with clients like you brought in when we were doing the business brokerage end. I see that with clients all the time. It's a magnificent retirement plan. Absolutely. We had a plumbing company. He was like, I got to get out. Okay, great. Do you want to unload the building with this? absolutely not. You know, I don't. So a lot of times they'll take the revenue from the sale of the business, use a portion of it to pay off if there was a mortgage left on the commercial property, pay it off. Now they're rent clear, and now they're grabbing, you know, $10,000 a month as a landlord, as a way to kind of live without having to dip into that nice chunk of change they just
absolutely. And I think the only pushback that I'll ever really get on that will be like, yeah, but now I'm responsible for the repairs. I'm a landlord or whatever. Well, that's not true now. If you own the building outright, you could private finance that building to the person that grabbed your business, set them up on a 30-year mortgage, and now they own the building. You're just the mortgage holder. So it's like collecting rent, but not being responsible for any of the issues.
Yeah. Or triple net it, you know, something like that.
Right,
but
exactly.
But now you brought up interest rates. As interest rates have climbed, I've seen more of our clients being willing to say, you know, we encourage it. I'm like, hey, listen, you know, at this percentage, you could be the bank and you would be enticing to buyers right now because it's less than they're going to pay if they go to, and they, you know, you show them the number on that and they're like, oh, all right. You know, I just added 30% to what my actual, takeaway is because I'm going to hold the paper on.
Exactly, yeah.
And if they don't pay, you re-own it and resell it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to whisper that into the microphone.
Yeah,
if they don't pay, you take it back and you destroy lives and families. Well, that's real nice, Brian. That's great. So anyway, back to this fatherhood
Merry
episode.
Christmas,
So
everybody.
Happy holidays. It's eviction season.
Before we do some promotions, let's wrap up. Let's recap.
All right.
Recap. You need to consider real estate as part of your business
Not
growth
need
plan.
to. You absolutely will
You
consider.
are going
if
to
you are
be
on the
after
blunt
this
force,
video.
if you're in the blunt zone,
If you're in the blunt zone like we are,
on
baby,
the blunt force path, you will
and
consider
you got
real
the
estate.
niche. You feel the niche.
Blunt force fact number 1, it's good to be king. Blunt force fact number 2, the only thing better than a good plan is a backup plan. And blunt force fact number 3, always be ready to pull out.
These are things that you should be thinking about.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you just incorporate the real estate into it. It makes everything better.
Absolutely.
And it goes along with all of our ideas of controlling your future, controlling your time, all those things you have more control over if you have control over the real estate.
Jarrod, you fucking killed it today.
Yeah,
Let's
let's talk about, well,
Tell
Jarrod,
us a little bit about
how can people find you?
People could find us. I have an office based out of Johnston, Rhode Island. We're licensed real estate brokers in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Florida, only really servicing Pinellas County in Florida, but we're expanding out there. Now, name of the company is J. Christopher Real Estate. We handle all aspects of real estate, like kind of, you know, how we mentioned, we're not just ready to shove a sale down your throat, you know, so like what Brian was talking about with, you know, people are scared or people want to buy stuff they shouldn't. I'd like to think that we separate ourselves with, you know, Brian knows personally, like I'll talk somebody out of something, or if it's a shitty idea, we'll tell you it's a shitty idea. We're not a company that's filled with yes people.
So if you're in southeastern New England and you're considering commercial real estate
or residential or
residential,
yep.
Jarrod's your guy.
Absolutely.
Or you're in what county in Florida again?
Pinellas County. So we service in mainly St. Petersburg, Tampa, Clearwater.
Was there like a target in terms of the commercial real estate that you do, or is it like in terms of a range or an area or type?
We probably do a lot. We do a lot of mixed use properties because we deal with we have a big database. So a lot of the people that, you know, business owners, it's just, you know, we always try to push exactly what we were talking about today. Like, you know, everybody's talking about like, oh, we're ready to buy an investment property. Well, have you thought about maybe buying a building that you could run your business out of? And they just think that it's not, you know, a possibility. So that's where I personally like to work in a lot. I like working with other business owners because it's a little easier to, you know, to talk about, you know, what's realistic, and, you know, everybody knows, you know, it's easy just talking about the math aspect of people that are already focused on numbers.
Awesome.
Well, some of us don't like math very much.
Nobody ever wants
Sometimes I like math. Right now, I don't like math.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Great stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks
Brian
for having
LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Till next time.
Thank you.